trying to think of a spell from Harry Potter. Expelliarmus! All right, honey, come on, let's get a selfie. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I have been for a week, and I have a recital in 15 minutes. I just kicked ass, okay? That's really how you need to feel. Even if you didn't, just be like, that was great, even though you cracked the high C. All right, let's go see where Dracula was born.
La toată lumea? Anul 2017 a însemnat pentru publicul meloman bucureștean întâlnirea cu una dintre vedetele tinere ale actualității operei internaționale, cu certificat de autenticitate din partea celor mai importante scene lirice ale lumii, baritonul american Lucas Meachem. Solistul, născut în North Carolina, a studiat la Appalachian State University, Eastman School of Music și Yale University, înainte de a deveni Adler Fellow al operei din San Francisco. Căsătorit cu pianista de origine română Irina Meachem, Lucas s-a lansat de aproximativ 10 ani într-o meritorie carieră internațională care l-a condus la Opera de Stat din Viena, Royal Opera House Covent Garden din Londra, Opera din Los Angeles, Metropolitan din New York, Opera din Monte Carlo, Teatre du Capitol din Toulouse, Sächsische Staatsoper din Dresda, Lyric Opera din Chicago sau Opera Bastille din Paris. La București, Lucas și Irina au apărut la Ateneul Român, într-un recital organizat de Societatea Muzicală. Cu o zi înainte, Lucas a susținut un curs de maestrie pentru studenții la canto ai Universității Naționale de Muzică București.
Întrebat, ok, cine organizează concerte în România și cu cine să discutăm și așa au ajuns la noi. Oricum, a fost pentru noi o șansă, fiindcă noi oricum îi aveam pe o listă, voiam să-l contactez pe el să vină în juriu de la Mihail Jora.
Pe drumuri de farmec pline, eu port durerea cu mine mereu. Cantând câte o melodie, durerea. Am adunat în ea anume ce-am urât și ce-am iubit, cu tot ce m-am ales de la lume, eu lumii întregi m-aș fi dăruit, dar n-am găsit cuvânt să-i pot spune.
Și atunci, I don't have the words either.
Și atunci un cântec doar să-i vii.
You are here after a masterclass within the Romanian Music University here in Bucharest, and I was wondering, how was that experience for you?
It was really inspiring, actually, to hear such great young talent here in Bucharest. It was, the singers really were they impressed me a lot. Not that I had low expectations, but they blew me away, really. They were very talented, and they were very quick to change and to take my instructions, which really made me happy, because it's the most difficult thing as someone that teaches is telling someone something and them not being able to fix it. So I was very impressed with the level of singing and the level of intellect that was at the university here.
You don't have to put your head down if you don't want to. You can. It's not about putting your head down or turning to me. It's about feeling the character in the moment. Thinking about, what is my first line? Because literally, I've heard so many times, Madamina, like come out as, and then they go on. But because you just forget it, just think, I say Madamina first. I know it's ridiculous. Think, and what does that mean? And then as soon as you thought about that, turn to the audience, and you're ready, okay?
Okay.
Your name is the most important thing, because then they're like, who was that girl that sang? I don't know, I didn't understand her name. She was great. They don't know who you are, because you didn't say your name. So, hello. My name is Lucas Meachem. And I would like to see, my name is Lucas Meachem. Now, my name is Lucas Meachem. Who the hell is that? My name is Lucas Meachem, and I would like to sing for you the doll song from Les Contes d'Hoffmann.
The attitude after you're in the aria is, I just kicked ass, okay? That's really how you need to feel. Even if you didn't, just be like, that was great, even though you cracked the high C. Okay?
Hello, my name is Lucas Meachem, and I will sing De Vieni alla finestra from Don Giovanni.
De vieni alla finestra, o mio tesoro, de vieni a consolare il pianto mio.
You know what strikes me? That you are still very young and already having master classes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess that's true. I never really liked the term master because I just feel like I'm someone that knows a lot about singing, who likes to give that knowledge to the younger generation. So it's called a master class all over the world, but I really never liked that term. So when you think of a master, you do think of someone, you know, with
someone at the end of the career.
Exactly, exactly. What I find different about myself when I'm giving master classes is that I'm able to talk to the students in a much more personal level because I'm not so much older than them that I can't connect with them on the same level. So I actually yesterday when I was giving the master class made a reference to an Eminem song, Slim Shady. I don't know if you know it, but anyway, and of course, you know, they all laughed, but that sort of brings them together a little closer and makes me, I'm not trying to come in and say, I'm the master, you are the student. I'm trying to say, I want to share my knowledge with you, and you can take that or leave it.
Do you perceive major differences in what singing is concerned when we think about a certain American way or a certain American school of singing compared to the European one? Is there such thing?
That's a great question, and yes, there is. For me, the only thing I'm concerned with a university level student is sound, is how they make their air go over their vocal cords and out into the audience. And you'd think that sounds so easy. And what's crazy is a baby makes the loudest sound you can imagine because they don't think about how am I going to make this sound. They just cry, or they just yell, or they just scream or something. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's so loud. And then as you get older, you think, well, now I have to sound like an opera singer. And so you start to hold here with your tongue or your jaw or your throat. And all I care about is them having air go from here to there. Pavarotti has a fantastic quote where they asked him, they said, how do you do what you do? What do you do? And Pavarotti says to them, he says, it's simple. I breathe, I sing. And it's really that simple. So I basically coach them on letting the air flow forward.
And also following their voices and not trying to sound like someone in particular or to, I don't know, push very hard in order to get a more artificial sound.
You know what? It sounds like you might have done your research on me because I preach that all the time. I tell the students, I say, just like your thumbprint is unique to you, every person in the world has their own unique vocal thumbprint or fingerprint. That is uniquely their own, and they only sound like themselves. So the real challenge for someone is to not let anything get in the way of your pure sound that is only you. Because there are lots of people that say, oh, I want to sound like Renee Fleming or Dmitri Vorostovsky or Nina Stimme or people like this, and if you sound like somebody else, you're not being yourself. And so as an artist, all artists come to this point where they say, do I paint like Picasso, or do I paint like myself, or do I take photographs? You know, it's all, eventually it all comes back to being the best you can be.
Durch die Lüfte hört ich Wandervögel ziehen, das bedeutet Frühlingsdüfte. Und hin fängt schon an zu blühen. Jauchzen möchte weinen, ist mir's doch, als könnt's nicht sein. Alte Wunder wieder scheinen mit dem Mondesglanz herein. Und im Mond die Sterne sagen's, und im Traum rauscht ihr ein. Und die Nachtigallen schlagen's, sie ist deine, sie ist dein.
Societatea muzicală e o fundație culturală, nu e o companie, deși noi facem lucrurile exact cum se fac într-o companie și probabil că de asta am și reușit într-un timp atât de scurt, care are totuși 1 an și jumătate de când funcționează, să facem multe lucruri, multe proiecte. Și asta a pornit din întâmplare. N-aveam nici cea mai mică intenție să facem proiecte mari sau să facem proiecte publice. Voiam să facem doar niște concerte private pentru, clienții mei, oameni bogați și așa mai departe. Și s-a întâmplat. Proiectele mari au tot venit spre noi. Au auzit că putem să le finanțăm, au auzit că putem să organizăm și să facem project management-ul și așa, fără să avem intenția de a face astfel de proiecte, am ajuns să facem și proiecte mari.
Managementul de proiect cultural înseamnă și o acerbă muncă de convingere a altora că merită să investească bani sau resurse umane, materiale, de timp și așa mai departe în asemenea inițiative care poate că nu aduc un profit imediat și instant cuantificabil. Pe cine trebuie să convingeți dumneavoastră, în primul rând, că merită să vă fie alături?
Noi lucrăm întotdeauna cu sponsor, nu vindem bilete, nu vindem niciodată bilete. Am făcut acum un test, de fapt, nu numai acum, și la alte concerte, de se vând puține bilete. Bine, nici nu ne pricepem noi să facem concerte publice, evenimente publice, n-avem încă, fiind atât de noi, n-avem nici canalele, nici știința răspândirii informațiilor către public. Da? Avantajul nostru și aici intră în joc poziția pe care o am eu în business, că eu sunt headhunter. Eu fac recrutări pentru poziții de conducere. Recrutăm de 26 de ani, recrutez directori, președinți și așa mai departe. De-aia îi cunosc pe toți. Da. Și mie mi-a fost ușor și mi-e ușor în continuare să-i conving pe oamenii respectivi că dacă facem noi un proiect din ăsta cultural, de concert sau concurs sau poezie sau altceva, ei au încredere că noi îl facem bine. Știu că sunt tot din business, că nu mă joc cu imaginea mea, că nu mă joc cu imaginea lor, nu mă joc cu banii lor și mulți nici nu întreabă. Așa că am fost în poziția de a refuza sponsori.
I bought me a cat, my cat pleased me. I fed my cat under yonder tree. My cat says fiddle I feed. I bought me a cow, no, I bought me a hen. Goose. All right. Duck, goose, hen, cow, pig. Duck, goose, hen, pig, cow, horse, what?
I don't know. Sounds good.
Duck, goose, hen, pig, cow, horse, what? From the beginning.
From the beginning.
I bought me a cat, my cat pleased me. I fed my cat under yonder tree. My cat says fiddle I feed. I bought me a duck, my duck pleased me. I fed my duck under yonder tree. My duck says quack, quack. My cat says fiddle I feed. I bought me a wife, my wife pleased me. I fed my wife under yonder tree. Irina says, Lucas. Lucas! My horse says, nay, nay. My cow says, bow, bow. My pig says, creepy, creepy. My hen says, shimmy, shack, shimmy, shack. My goose says, quaw, quaw. My duck says, queen, queen. My cat says, fiddle-a-fee.
If I were to ask you about a certain moment in your life, back in the beginning, when you are certain of the fact that you have decided to be an opera singer, could you point me to that particular moment?
Oh, you know, I could give you some moments that made me feel like I'm really doing well in my career.
Yeah.
But even today, I talk to my agent on the phone and I say, all right, I'm singing at the Met in Vienna and Paris, but when am I going to sing here and why am I not doing this job, you know? So I think that the drive that brought me to this point was a good thing when I had nothing and when I had become nothing. But now that I have become well known in the opera world, it's still good in some ways, but it's bad in others because that drive doesn't just go away. Mm-hmm. I still want more. I still feel like I haven't gone as far as I can go. And I think that's a common thread between most opera singers that are famous and well known, is that they still have the drive. They still have that want and that need to do more and to be more focused and more out there into the world. So to answer your question, there were a couple of moments in my career that were big moments for me that projected my career further, faster. But for the most part, I still don't feel like I've arrived. I still feel like I have so much more to give.
Yeah.
And if I lost that, I might actually lose the part of me that is interesting to watch on stage. So I guess it's a very interesting question. I don't mean to dodge the question, but I do feel it's important to have that longing and that drive to do better every time. And I have that. I've never sung a perfect performance, ever in my career. I feel like I've come close in some roles, but I don't ever want to sing a perfect performance, because as soon as I think I'm perfect, the next step, where do I go?
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go but down.
Do you remember your first operatic crush?
Yes. Le Nozze di Figaro.
Yeah.
The Marriage of Figaro. The perfection that is that opera is just, it's unparalleled. Most opera singers that I have this conversation with also say The Marriage of Figaro is the most perfect opera ever written. There's some Wagner people that think some Wagner operas, you know, from The Ring are the most perfect. But for me, The Marriage of Figaro, I still have a crush on that piece.
Is this the opera you have come to discover opera through it?
In a lot of ways, yes. I sang this opera first when I was in school at Yale University. And it was the opera that taught me, that really gave me the tools to be able to sing Italian recitative in a very intelligent, smart way. That all of a sudden I started to become my own artist, because I would, you know, learn the recitative and say, well, what am I really saying here? You know, what am I saying? How does this lead up to the aria? How does this move forward in the production? And what is my part to play with these words? And so all of a sudden, I'm really making the words mean something more than just beautiful singing. I'm really saying, well, now I'm upset, but don't come behind me and don't surprise me, and then I sing the aria, you know? So, yeah, Le Nozze di Figaro, number one.
And actually, Mozart holds a central piece and a central place within your repertoire. And you also alternate Mozart, I've seen, with other composers, but always keeping this lyrical tessitura at its place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do subsidize my Mozart with also singing Rossini, yes, and a lot of French opera, even some Wagner. I sing Tannhäuser. And recently, I've been moving into more bel canto repertoire and some even early Verdi, which
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yes.
Heading towards Verdi.
You know, after a decade of singing The Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni and The Magic Flute and Così fan tutte, I've had a decade of doing those, and most people have heard me sing them. So every singer comes to this point where they've sung Don Giovanni in most of the major houses, And then they say, well, there's a younger guy coming up who's really good at this. The younger Lucas Meachem is over here, and so he starts coming up and singing them. So I have to make a switch and start singing into a slightly larger repertoire of bel canto roles like Donizetti and of course the early Verdi like La Traviata and Don Carlos and even Falstaff, Ford and Falstaff. So I'm currently making that switch, and it's going well because I've got my one toe in the bel canto rep and the other toe in the Mozart and Rossini rep, and so I'm swimming in both pools right now. Yeah. And it's nice. It's nice that I don't have to dive headfirst into the other.
Where do you see your voice evolving for the near future?
Oh, good question. Well, I would love to start singing larger Verdi baritone roles. But I think first I still have a lot of French repertoire in me to sing. And there's even a chance that I might be able to do Walküre, a Heldentenor role of Siegmund, which is just a chance, and I don't want to scare anybody out there that's watching and thinking, oh, well, we've hired him for Don Giovanni, but, you know, because those roles are quite different. But I don't know. There's a chance I might give it a shot just for the fun of it, because it's a really amazing role. But really, at this point, bel canto and Verdi, that's the direction I'm heading.
Some of the world's most important opera houses are located in America, and we start with Metropolitan, but we also have Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And I was going to ask you, from this particular point of view, establishing an important career for an American artist might be a bit easier when compared to a European one?
That's a great question. Gosh, you're so knowledgeable, Marius, I have to say. This is really an amazing interview you're doing. So, to answer that question, as an American, when you're in America, you want to come to Europe.
Yeah,
and
right.
so for most people, if they don't hit it big in America, very few people do, by the way. Very few people hit it big and then come to Europe as a success. Most people come to Europe, succeed here, and then the America hears about it and says, oh, well, that person's been very successful in Europe. We would like to have them back over in the United States.
That happened also like 40 or 50 years ago.
Yes.
If we think of Leontyne Price,
yes,
who made her debut in Europe, then got back to America and had her Metropolitan debut.
Absolutely. There are many singers that have done this. And that's exactly the path that my career has taken as well. I had a big break at the Chicago Lyric Opera, and all of a sudden I was singing at both places about equally, in Europe and in the United States. And now I sing, it's almost the same, a little less in Europe than I used to. Well, not this year. It just really depends on the year mostly. But I have to say though, to be able to sing at Los Angeles and the Met in Chicago, and I mean in about 14 months, I'll have sung at San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles, and the Met in the same like 14-month period. Yeah. So it's pretty wonderful to have those companies to keep coming back to me and offering me work, and I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am.
But still, you're saying there is this fascination towards Europe.
Yes.
Does it also have to do with the tradition, with the fact that here we have, or we had, some of the most important opera theaters, if we think of La Scala or the Vienna State Opera, but theaters that today completely match in the level of quality the American theaters?
Oh, there's no question about that. that the theaters here match the level in the United States. There's no question. You know, you've got Vienna, Zurich, München, London, Paris, I'd say even Barcelona and Madrid, and I mean, the list goes on, Frankfurt, you know, so there are many places in Europe that are absolutely on the level of the United States. And I would actually say, gosh, I don't know if I want to say this on television, but I really do like singing in Europe because a lot of the productions that are done in Europe push the boundaries of our art form more than in the United States. I think the audiences in the United States want their productions to be more traditional and standard. And here in Europe, especially in Germany. They really are pushing the boundaries of our art form. Yeah, the Regie Theater, exactly. I'm doing a Don Giovanni that pushes the boundaries right now. And again, I love some of it and I hate some of it, but there's not much of it that I don't have an emotion about. That's what I say with people go to an opera and they hate it and they boo and they walk out and they're angry and they talk about it for hours. I'm like, that's an emotion that they've evoked out of you. Even if you hate it, you still talked about it for hours. You know, I can't say what it was, but I went to a show recently.
You can say what it was.
I cannot. I wish I could. I will not. My wife's shaking the finger. I cannot. But anyway, I'll tell you, I went to a show recently and I hated it and I talked about it all night.
In Europe or America?
Europe.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all you're going to get out of me.
An opera show.
An opera, yes. Yeah, okay. But that's So anyway, but in any case, but again, I even brought this up. I said, but we're still talking about it. We're still talking about it. Love it or hate it. Talk about it.
Presto bottega che la mangia, presto. Che bel vivere, che bel piacere, che bel piacere. Per un barbiere di qualità, di qualità. Bravo, bravo, bravissimo, bravo. Fortunatissimo Federica, bravo. Fortunatissimo per verità, fortunatissimo per verità.
Speaking of that, how far would you go when it comes to a certain production and a certain boundary that you are willing or you are not willing to cross in terms of your character?
Another great question. For me, it's all about the text. If in the text we can find a way to convince me, if the director can find a way to convince me that it makes sense to do something, I'll think about it and I'll say, okay, I'm convinced. But if you can't convince me, then you can't convince my character. And all of a sudden I'm simply doing something because the director said, go kiss that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just go kiss that guy, but it doesn't mean anything to me. But if all of a sudden, because of the words and the music that's happening at the same time, that might evoke a reaction from my character that makes me want to kiss that guy, then I'll do it and I'll be happy with it. But if it's just the director saying, I don't care if you don't believe it, go do it. And to say that the best directors I ever work with are the ones that have a great idea that doesn't work in the whole production, and they say no to the idea. The worst directors that have a great idea and they force that idea, it's like trying to put a square peg through a round hole. You know, they force that idea into the production and it doesn't work and they can't get away from that one idea. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, if I'm convinced, I can convince the audience. If I'm not convinced, the audience will be just as confused as me.
Did you ever say no to something?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't quit over it, but I've said no, and I've also done things that I didn't believe in. I literally, I won't say argue. I will discuss with the director to the point that I say, okay, if you want me to just do this, I will just do it, but I don't believe in it. I never tell them, okay, I believe now if I don't believe. I say, I will just do this now. Okay, because you want me to do this, I will do this. I respect you, so I will do this. But I tell them I don't believe in it. So I try to sell it even though it's fake.
A tricky question now. If you were to exchange voices for just one night with one of your colleagues, it can be a soprano, it can be another baritone, it can be someone from 100 years ago, it can be someone from tomorrow, you choose. Who would that be and what would you sing?
Wow. Oh, my mind is reeling. I have so many things I want to say, but I have to pick one. Okay, well, it'd have to be a woman, because I would have to figure out what that feels like.
Okay.
It would have to be a soprano, Maria Callas. And I would sing...
Norma. Tosca.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
Probably.
Great.
Yeah, or maybe Anamofo. I don't know, but nonetheless, yes, okay. I'll go with Maria Callas.
You are very active and proactive, social networkingly speaking, and I've seen you do vlogs and you are posting pictures on Instagram, and you're not the only one, you're not the only opera singer doing this today, and I would say this is part of also getting to present opera to a younger audience in order not to make it be perceived as an elite art form addressed only to those who are really initiated.
Well, it's another genre of meeting people. I've always been very good at, shaking hands, signing autographs after shows. I really interact with my fans. If they're going to take the time to care about me, I want to take the time to care about them. So this has opened up a new world of opportunity for me to show my fans that I'm a real person. And before I go any further, I have to say that the reason I have such good social media is because of my lovely wife, Lucas Meachem. I just got married in July, and she is my social... Thank you so much. So she is my social media guru. She is my everything, really. So she is the one that makes all of this happen. We have our camera with us today. We're going to put up about this. You're going to be on our next vlog, which is going to be a week
Finally,
in Romania.
my chance to be famous. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, you'll be signing autographs in no time.
Right.
I'm just kidding. So, but the social media aspect, and if I'm being honest, I'll be absolutely honest with this. It's work for me. Like meeting people after the show doesn't feel like work, but social media does feel like work to me. So it's never something that came naturally for me. I think for my generation, it was new, and so I didn't grow up doing it. And so for me, it always, I don't know, I fought social media for a long time, and I thought it should just be about the voice. I'm a good singer, I'm a good actor, I'm a good performer, that's all it should be about. And you know what, in this day and age, you just have to work at it. You just kind of have to have it. And so because of that, I work at it, but every time I do it, it does feel like work to me. So it's not as easy as my wife makes it look. And she really does do the most of it.
So the time of the untouchable and unreachable opera singer, whether diva or divo, is gone.
I'm not sure I'd say that. I think some people play that card, and some people act that way. Whether they are that way or they choose to portray themselves as that, they do. There are people out there that are like that, but for the most part, all the famous people I've worked with are really just kind-hearted, down-to-earth people that happen to be really good singers. But to say something to what you asked about the accessibility aspect of it, I do have to say that I love opera is becoming more accessible to the masses, but I also feel like with the dumbing down of a lot of movies that are coming out and the music that's being heard, it's really becoming just one beat and a few different lines wrapped over it with one singer, and it's formulaic. There's a formula to music, there's a formula to the movies that are coming out and becoming blockbuster hits. For someone to go to an opera, there does have to be a certain level of intellectualism for them to be able to sort of comprehend it, maybe even some sort of study about it beforehand, at least read about the plot, because there are subtle things in opera that aren't quite as easy to get as going to a movie and eating popcorn and having your Coke and or listening to the radio. You can do all that stuff and drive your car or talk on the phone, or you can listen to that, but with opera you really have to zone in. And with this YouTube generation and this Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat generation, and this becoming popular and the norm, there's 7 seconds of attention that people give, and then they're swipe right, and they're on to the next thing, and they swipe again, and they're on to the next thing. So opera does require a certain level of attention and intellectualism that is not quite necessary in the same way for today's art.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because as much as we try to make opera accessible and available to anyone, you have to have a certain, I would say, firstly, a certain state of mind in order to be in an opera hall and to have the whole experience, because an opera performance is an experience, a holistic one, I would say. Yeah.
this guy.
One recording that you're featured in has been awarded a Grammy Award.
Yes.
How does this change things for you?
Well, gosh, I gotta say, going into the whole Grammy thing when I was nominated, I thought, who cares? Not a big deal. My wife was so excited. She flew to Los Angeles. She met with a designer, picked out a dress, and had like this designer gown, you know, for the Grammys and stuff. And I got there, and I thought, oh wow, that's Adele in the line. You know, we were in the same line to get pictures. I was 2 people behind Adele, and I was like, that's interesting, you know. And you know, you're just right there with all the stars. And as soon as I won, as soon as they announced my name, I thought, oh my God, I won, you know. It became, all right, so it was, for me, it was down here. I didn't care. I thought, my wife will love this, it'll be great. And then I won, and I thought, okay, this is a big deal. Okay, this is very cool. And so I went up, I gave an acceptance speech, and along with the producer. And, you know, so I've been telling people, I've gotten this question a few times where they ask what it means for me to have a Grammy at this point. And for the classical music world, nothing. Doesn't mean anything. But for all of my non-classical music people that I know and that I meet, it's a big deal. Because they recognize the name Grammy. I'll give you an example. Like, I was singing at the Chicago Lyric Opera, the Met, in Europe and all over the place, and all of a sudden, I was asked to sing at a Major League Baseball game in San Francisco. And so, you know, I sang at the game and I put it on social media, and all of my family said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're singing the national anthem at this baseball game. And I'm like, well, you know, I sing at the Metropolitan. Exactly. This is the least important thing I do, is sing the national anthem. But for them, it's a big deal. And so for
the exposure is
the exposure is fantastic. Absolutely. So that's what I say. For the rest of the world that doesn't know about the classical arts or classical music or opera, the Grammy is a huge deal, because it gives me instant, what's the word? It gives me a sort of gravitas. It all of a sudden says, this person's a very serious artist. Whereas before I sang, I sing at the Metropolitan Opera. Okay, where's that? You know, so now, for everyone that doesn't know opera, that makes me relevant. That makes me an important artist, because I have a Grammy. And so for that factor, it's kind of nice to have, you know, have the things in the opera world that make me a big artist, and then have the things in the normal people world that makes me look like a big artist. So it feels good, it feels nice.
Here to sing the Star-Spangled Banner, please welcome Grammy Award-winning baritone, currently starring in the Metropolitan Opera production of La Bohème, Lucas Meachem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You know, they don't give you the Grammy right there. Yeah. Okay, so so I go up there and they hand me the Grammy,
Yeah.
and I take the Grammy, and I'm like, thank you so much. I give the speech, and then as soon as I walk off stage, this woman walks up with a gloved hand and a rag, takes it back from me, and starts cleaning it for the next person.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So then I go back and they give me another Grammy, and they take pictures of me with the people and everything, and I'm like, yeah, with the Grammy, and then I give that one back too. And so just 2 days ago, my Grammy arrived in the mail in the United States. So I have it, but it's not here.
Okay.
So
I see. Well, you were speaking earlier about those few performances when you had the feeling you were heading towards perfection. Well, how do you reward yourself after one of these performances?
That's a good question too. I don't know. I'm pretty much the same after every performance, great or good. Mm-hmm. Because I'd say if I'm going to give a bad performance, I'll cancel. So yeah, so I never give less than a good performance. Yeah. And so yeah, I after every performance, I normally go out and I grab a beer and a soup normally. Soup, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's just good and soothing for the
very
voice.
Soothing for the throat.
So yeah, I go out for just a little something. Of course, it's a hard lifestyle to maintain because eating dinner at midnight is a bit difficult.
But soup is perfect.
That's why soup is perfect. It took me a long time to come to soup. It used to be Wiener Schnitzel and hot dogs, hamburgers, steaks, and potatoes, and now it's soup and a beer, and then I go to bed.
Eu îl aș da. Muzica, muzica, muzica.